I walked out of the fire. The deeper life pastor who survived a plane crash. The smell of burning metal was thick in the air. Screams echoed through the forest as fire consumed what was left of Flight 107. Bodies were scattered, twisted, lifeless. But from the heart of the flames, one figure crawled out, blackened with soot, trembling but alive. His white shirt torn, Bible still clutched in one hand, Pastor Gideon stumbled through the wreckage, barely believing he was still breathing. He was the only one left. Just 24 hours earlier, he had been preparing for a ministers' conference in Port Harcourt. Pastor Gideon wasn't just any preacher. He was a man deeply rooted in the Deeper Life Bible Church, known for his strict discipline, fervent prayers, and calm authority. He rarely traveled by air. The road is long but safe, he always said. But this time, with the conference schedule so tight, the state overseer had insisted, Pastor Gideon, just take the flight. He obeyed. Boarding the plane that morning, he had an uneasy feeling. Something wasn't right. As the flight crew smiled and welcomed passengers, Pastor Gideon quietly bowed his head and prayed, Father, I don't know what lies ahead, but I place myself in your hands. If it's my time, let me die in you. If not, deliver me for your glory. The prayer was brief, but from a heart full of faith. Halfway into the flight, the aircraft shook violently. At first, passengers thought it was just turbulence. But then a loud bang echoed from the engine. Oxygen masks dropped. The plane tilted. Panic set in. Mothers screamed. Children cried. The pilot's voice was shaky as he announced, brace for impact. We are attempting an emergency landing. Pastor Gideon held his Bible tightly and began to pray aloud. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Around him, passengers were screaming. He kept praying. His last memory before blacking out was calling on the name of Jesus. When he awoke, everything was quiet, too quiet. Then came the crackling of fire, the scent of blood, and the terrifying realization that the plane had crashed in a remote part of Cross River State. Bodies were everywhere. But somehow he was untouched. No broken bones, no burns, just bruises and smoke in his lungs. His seat was thrown far from the fire, shielded by debris. It didn't make sense, but he knew God had preserved him. He staggered through the forest until he reached a small village. The locals rushed him to a nearby hospital. News spread fast. Only one survivor in the Flight 107 crash, a Deeper Life pastor. Reporters swarmed the hospital. Government officials came. Everyone wanted to understand, how did he live when 128 others died? Doctors ran tests. He should be dead, one whispered. This is unexplainable. But Pastor Gideon simply said, it's not science. It's God. In a press conference held days later, still wrapped in bandages, Pastor Gideon stood before cameras and said, I didn't survive because I was strong. I survived because mercy found me. God preserved me to remind Nigeria that he still saves. In this crooked generation, miracles still happen, not for entertainment, but for purpose. People mocked him online. Some called it a setup. Others said the crash wasn't real. But among the Deeper Life brethren, it sparked revival. His survival was a message. In house fellowships across the nation, his story was shared. Children reenacted it. Pastors quoted it. Believers were strengthened. He returned to the same pulpit 2 months later. The scars were still fresh, his voice a little weaker, but his faith stronger than ever. I should be in a coffin, he said, but I stand here to say that God is still the fourth man in the fire. When the plane went down, the world thought it was over. But Jesus walked into that fire, pulled me out, and gave me one more chance to preach. Tears rolled down the faces of members as they lifted their hands in worship. Even people who rarely came to service flooded in to hear the man who walked out of death. That night, Pastor Gideon knelt beside his bed and whispered, Lord, whatever years I have left, they're yours. And truly, he lived differently after that. More prayerful, more burdened for souls, less interested in personal comfort. Every message he preached carried fire. His testimonies revived the weary. People who had lost faith in miracles began to believe again. Today, years later, the wreckage of Flight 107 is rusting in a government hangar. But Pastor Gideon is still preaching, still testifying, still holding his worn-out Bible, burnt at the edges from the crash, but still readable. A reminder that what the enemy meant for death, God turned into a testimony. If you're going through fire right now, remember this. The same God who preserved Pastor Gideon in a burning plane can preserve you in your storm. It's not over until God says so.